Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Story 1. I grew up near the edge of the Navajo Nation in New Mexico. Our home sat alone on a stretch of dry red land, where the wind never really stopped whispering through the mesquite trees and coyotes howled like they were crying for something lost. My father was half Navajo, a quiet man with lines on his face like cracked desert clay, and he used to tell me things that felt more like warnings than stories. Never whistle at night, he'd say, and never speak the names of things you don't understand. He meant skinwalkers, of course. He never said the word. He didn't have to. I was 16 last summer when it happened. It was the first time I was left alone overnight. My mother passed years ago, and my father never remarried. We had each other, just the two of us. That night, he had driven into town to help a cousin whose truck broke down on the highway. He promised he'd be back by 9. I remember watching the clock. 8:45 p.m. I was curled up on the couch with a blanket and a book I wasn't really reading. The TV was off, and the only light in the room came from the lamp by the window. Everything felt still, but not peaceful, just pause like something was waiting. Then I heard it, the crunch of tires on gravel. I got up and peeked through the living room curtain. His truck, same color, same rusted door on the passenger side. It pulled into the driveway slow and silent, headlights beaming straight ahead like a pair of blind eyes. Then it stopped, but he didn't get out. He just sat there, no movement, no engine running, lights on but no sound. I thought maybe he was on the phone. I waited. 1 minute, then 2, then 5. Still nothing. That's when the knock came. 3 slow, heavy knocks on the front door. Knock, knock, knock. Son, open up. It was my father's voice, but wrong. The moment I heard it, my stomach dropped. It was like someone had recorded him and played it back on an old tape. His tone flat, his cadence off, the kind of sound that makes your skin go tight. I didn't answer. I didn't move. I just stared at the door, my pulse thudding so loud I could hear in my ears. Then the voice came again, but this time, it came from the back of the house. Son, it said, clearer now, more urgent. Come on. I forgot my keys. I spun around and nearly dropped my phone. How could he be at the back if the truck was still in the driveway out front? I backed into the hallway, turned off every light I passed, and locked every door. The front, the back, even the little one that led to the crawl space. Then I called him. He picked up after 1 ring. I'm stuck in traffic, he said. There's been an accident just outside of town. I might be another hour. I didn't even know what to say. I just whispered, okay, and hung up. Then the knocking started again. But this time, it was coming from the window right behind me. I didn't look. I couldn't. I knew. Somehow I knew. If I looked, I would see his face, smiling but wrong. A grin too wide, eyes too dark, skin stretched just a little too tight. Instead, I sank to the floor, covered my head, and listened as the knocking moved around the house. Window to window, wall to wall. Sometimes it was soft, like fingertips tapping. Sometimes it was hard, like claws raking across wood. And once, I swear to God, it whispered my name through the keyhole. That long night dragged on like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. I didn't sleep. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. When the sun finally rose, the noises stopped. I stepped outside, heart pounding, every part of me shaking. The truck was gone, but something else had been there. Scratches, deep, deliberate, ran along every window frame, every door, like something was trying to get in, like it was patient. And in the dust just outside the back door were footprints. Bare, human-shaped but twisted. The toes were too long, the arch was too high, and they ended in sharp claw-like points, like hooves had been stretched in a feet. When my father came home later that morning, I didn't tell him everything, but he knew. He looked around at the scratches, nodded once, and whispered something in Navajo under his breath. Then he put salt on every windowsill, ash in every corner, and red sand across the threshold. That night, he sat up with his shotgun across his lap, and I stayed by his side. He never said it aloud, but I know what he was thinking. It wasn't just a skinwalker. It was one that knew us. One that knew how my father spoke. One that wore his face like a mask. And now, it knows mine. Story 2. My cousin Kyle and I weren't exactly the kind of guys who believed in ghost stories. We grew up in a dusty little town in Arizona where the biggest scare you'd get was a rattlesnake under your porch or a blackout during monsoon season. But Skinwalker Ranch, that was different. We'd heard the stories, the whispers, the warnings from old-timers in the diner back home. Still, we thought it would be a fun camping trip, you know, something to brag about over beers. Just two regular guys chasing adrenaline, maybe a little danger, but not the real kind, not the kind that stays with you. We drove out in Kyle's beat-up old Tacoma. Red dust coated the windshield by the time we pulled up to the edge of the property, and the sun was dipping low, casting long shadows across the ground. The land felt empty in a way I couldn't describe. Not just quiet, but hollow, like sound didn't travel right out there. Like it was being swallowed before it could echo. We pitched our tent about half a mile off the dirt road. There was nothing but desert scrub, twisted trees, and silence. That first night was uneventful. Just coyotes howling in the distance, and the occasional flap of wings from something flying overhead. We joked about skinwalkers and aliens, trying to spook each other, but there was no real fear. Not yet. The second night was colder. The wind didn't howl, it whispered. It came in little bursts, like breath from something standing too close. We huddled in our sleeping bags and told dumb stories until sleep took us. Then came the third night. It was around 2:30 a.m. when I heard it. Footsteps, light and fast, crunching over gravel and sand. I opened my eyes but stayed still, ears straining. The steps circled the tent once, then twice, then a third time. Kyle was already awake, frozen stiff beside me. "You hear that?" I whispered. He nodded without saying a word. We both assumed it was a coyote or maybe a raccoon, but the pacing, it was too deliberate, too aware. Then came the sound of something climbing. Metal groaned. My truck, parked just a few feet away, creaked under weight. We held our breath. Tap, tap, tap. Claws, distinct, sharp claws, clicking against the metal roof. Not heavy like a bear, but not light either. Whatever it was had weight. Intelligence. Intent. We didn't dare unzip the tent. We just lay there, eyes wide, the air around us thick and still. Then it started mimicking sounds. First, it barked like a dog. Then it hooted like an owl. Both were wrong. Too mechanical, like someone who'd heard these sounds on a recording and was trying to copy them. And then it spoke. "Let me in," it said, in Kyle's voice. My blood turned to ice, because Kyle was right next to me, shaking like a leaf, pale as death. His voice was tight, barely a whisper. That's not me. I don't remember deciding to move. I just did. We unzipped the tent in a blur and burst out with our flashlights on, hearts thudding in our throats. Nothing was on the truck, but around the tent, footprints, bare feet, but wrong. Each print had long toes, longer than any human should have, and claw marks, deep ones, at the end of each toe. They circled the tent like a predator waiting for a crack in the shell. We didn't pack up. We didn't even turn off the camp stove. We jumped in the truck and drove. Didn't stop for hours. Not until we were back in town, parked under a gas station light, breathing like we'd been underwater for too long. For a while, we didn't talk about it. What was there to say? People wouldn't believe us. Hell, we barely believed it ourselves. But a week later, I decided to wash the truck. That's when I saw the scratches. Deep gouges on the roof. Not just one or two, but rows of them. Like whatever had been up there wasn't just walking. It had been trying to dig through. Try and get in. There were 3 long scratches on the driver's side window, too. Just deep enough to almost crack the glass. That night plays in my head sometimes, like a bad movie on repeat. But the worst part isn't what happened. It's what I still hear. Late at night, when the house is quiet, sometimes, just sometimes, I hear Kyle's voice outside, saying, "Let me in." But Kyle's sleeping down the hall, and I don't answer. I never answer, because I'm not sure what would happen if I did. Story 3. In 2015, I took a job on a cattle ranch about 30 miles north of Flagstaff, Arizona. The kind of place that doesn't show up on maps unless you zoom in 3 times. And even then, it's marked by a dirt road that's only passable when it hasn't rained in 2 weeks. I was 27, wanted to get away from the noise, both literal and emotional. My dad had just passed. I'd gone through a breakup that felt more like a slow bleed than a clean cut, and I needed space. Solitude. The ranch gave me that. It was big. Over 1,500 acres of dry, cracked land, cornfields that stretched further than the eye could follow, and barns that leaned just enough to remind you they were built before your grandparents were born. We had cattle, sure, but most of the money came from farming. I slept in a single wide trailer about a quarter mile from the main house, and the days were predictable. Early mornings, long hours, sore hands, and silence. I liked it that way, until the 3rd week. I remember the evening so clearly. The sun was hanging low, the sky that dull orange color like a dying flame, and the wind had just picked up. One of those desert breezes that sounds like whispering if you stand still long enough. I was working alone, moving irrigation lines through the backfield. No one else wanted that job. I didn't ask why. I assumed it was because it was the furthest from the main house. But now I think they knew. I was halfway through dragging the last line when I saw something move at the edge of the corn. Just a flicker. Something pale, hunched low and quick. My first thought was deer. A lot of them come down from the hills this time of year. I reached for the flashlight clipped to my belt, aimed it toward the rows. And that's when it stood up. I swear to God, I felt my spine go cold. Not the kind of chill you get from the wind. This one felt internal, like my blood had turned to ice. It was tall, way too tall to be any animal I'd ever seen, and thin, almost unnaturally so. Its arms hung too long. Its shoulders were uneven. But the worst part, its eyes. glowing yellow, not shining, not reflecting like animal eyes in the dark, glowing, like there was fire behind them. They locked on me, didn't blink, didn't move, just stared, then started walking. No, stalking. It moved like a puppet, like someone was yanking invisible strings in all the wrong directions. Jerky, unnatural. Every step was a stutter in time. My brain couldn't make sense of it. I backed up slowly at first, then turned and ran. I don't remember how I got to my truck. All I remember is the sound. Not a growl, not a scream. Clicking, like bones tapping together. I peeled out of that field and didn't stop until I reached the main house. I burst through the front door like something was chasing me, which in my mind, it still was. And my boss, Mark, just looked up from his newspaper and asked, "You see it?" I froze. What the hell was that thing? He folded the paper, stood, and poured himself a cup of coffee like we were having a casual chat about the weather. "Don't go out there alone after dark," he said. Ever. That was it. No explanation. No warning signs. Like it was just another part of life out here. Like wolves, drought, and whatever that thing was all lived under the same sky. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't go back to the backfield for weeks. But sometimes I'd hear it. That clicking sound. Always just after midnight. Always somewhere near the corn. Then, one morning, I found one of our dogs, Rufus, dead behind the shed. He was torn open. Chest cavity split like someone had yanked it apart with bare hands. But nothing was eaten. No meat missing. No blood trail. Just destruction. And around the body were prints. Handprints. Long, bony fingers with pointed tips. No shoes. No claws. Just distorted hands. Like a child's drawing of a person if they didn't understand what fingers were supposed to look like. I told Mark. He just nodded and said, "Sometimes they get curious." That was it. I want to leave. I should have left. But money was tight, and part of me didn't want to be scared off like a coward. I told myself I imagined it. I told myself it was a coyote with mange, or maybe a trick of the light. Until the last night. It was late October. The nights had turned cold. I was in my trailer, reading, when I heard the footsteps. Outside, soft at first, then louder. Closer. I killed the lights and looked out through the blinds. There it was, standing at the edge of the corn again, same glowing eyes. Only this time, it wasn't staring at me. It was looking at the trailer, at the walls. It tilted its head like a dog trying to understand a command. Then it pointed, with one long, crooked finger, and smiled. I don't know how to describe it, but I'll try. Imagine a mouth that's too wide, lips that peel back too far, teeth that don't belong in any living creature, too sharp, too many, too perfect. That was its smile. I shut the blinds, locked the door, sat in the dark with a hammer in my lap until the sun came up. When I finally looked outside, it was gone. But the prints were still there, leading up to the trailer, and then away, back into the field. I quit the next day, packed up and left. Didn't even ask for my last check. But sometimes, late at night, when the wind is just right, I swear I can still hear it. That clicking, those footsteps, that smile behind the dark. And I still wonder what would have happened if I hadn't run that first night. If I just stood still, would I have walked into the field, or would it have come out? All I know is this. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't human, and I don't think it ever left those fields.